So guys, it's that time of the year when everyone gets inspired about gardening. Whether you're a gardener or not, somehow you find yourself wanting to plant things. We're going to show you today one of the easiest, quickest, simple ways to brighten up your life. Whether you've got a garden that big or whether you've got a garden that big. Right folks, so where do we get started? Well, there are a few essential ingredients that you need. Number one, of course, is a pot. Some kind of receptacle that you can plant into. So it could be a wheelbarrow, it could even be a tub truck, it could be an old tin, it could be a gumboot for goodness sake. But whatever you want to plant into, as long as it can hold soil, all right, and it's got some drainage holes. The rest is pure aesthetics. When using a terracotta pot, it's the closest to taking your plant and having it in the ground. Why? Because terracotta has no glaze, all right, and it happens to keep the moisture in, it happens to also keep the warmth. So moisture can move in and out the pot as needed. So we've got a pot or any receptacle. Right, next up what we're going to need is some potting soil, some good, new, fresh potting soil. This you can see, it looks good. You know, if something looks dry and kind of grey, well, if it looks good enough to eat, then you know it's looking fantastic. All right, next up what we're going to need is our block of coconut husk that we've already added into water and it's already broken down. Remember, it started off as a block like this, right? Pop it into a trug, add some water to it and leave it there for about 20 minutes. And the reason why we love this stuff is because of this. Oh, look at this. There it goes. I mean, that is one of the saving graces of any container garden. So while we're at work, beating hot day, plants need moisture, they can just suck it up through our mixture and they're going to be safe and they're not going to be going through any stress. So first up what we're going to do is we're going to pimp our potting soil mixture and we're going to do it as follows. So we're going to add in some of our coconut husk. So that is in. Next up, handful of organic pellets, and of course, a handful or two of fairy dust, which is the bone meal. Ooh, bone meal, essential for root development, and all we've got to do now is just give it a good mix. All right, guys, I'm happy that this has been mixed together thoroughly. As soon as when you pick it up and you can't see any distinctive clumps or patches, all the ingredients need to have got mixed up together so that they're not identifiable on their own, and then you're good to go. Right, let's get to the pot. Here's our beautiful baby now. A couple of golden rules about pots. Make sure that if you're wanting to plant the spring spectacle, which I'm wanting to do, that you've got a nice wide lip, so that you can literally get that billowing look. You want it to be oozing. Right, next up, folks, are the drainage pebbles. Now, I'm using a 19mm, it's just a building stone that you can get from your local hardware store or your local garden center. Now, this makes a terrible noise, so hang in there. Right, take a look at that. Stones in the bottom, right, and we are good to go. Note, we are not blocking the hole, okay? Really important, because it's still got to be a drainage hole. All right, let's get our beautiful baby in place here. Now we get to have fun. I'm going to add in some of my beautiful pimp potting soil mixture, and this is when a trug comes in really handy. So grab it, and look at that. In she goes. And here I'm filling up to just over halfway, folks. No more than that. Okay, pop them there. Just take your hand nice and open and just firm it down a little bit. Rightio, so we've got 3/4 there. What do we do next? So let's take a look at the plants that I've got here. Number one, all of these plants like a half-day sun, whether it's a full morning sun or a full afternoon sun or even 4 to 5 hours. So if it's in between, that's fine. So I've got lots of shades of pink, of white in here, but let's go through them individually. So this is an Argyranthemum, commonly known as your good old daisy bush. You're going to plant this, it's going to go on for years in the pot or in your garden. I have got some Pelargoniums here. Now, notice the Pelargonium, the shape of the leaf. You see that? It's called an ivy leaf geranium. When you notice that shape of leaf, know that it is trailing and cascading, all right? In the front, I've got Verbena, a great stalwart in the garden. Don't overwater it, or else it'll kind of lift up its toes and die. And then I've got this wonderful Petunia in mounds of flowers, nice and uniform, and that's going to go into my mixture as well. But I'm kind of finding that something's missing here. Remember, when we talk about planting in containers, we want to almost be able to emulate a standard structure, and that standard structure is missing this. Ha ha! Isn't this guy gorgeous? So this is your height, right? Remember, we're always wanting some height. Then we go down to mediums, which will be these guys, and then we go down to lows, which will be the cascading. Now I've got this beautiful sexy delphinium here. I mean, wowee. These guys flower in winter, go right through into spring, and will go on in your garden for a good few years. So I want to get this little baby into the pot, and he's going to go right in the middle to give me that height that I'm looking for. Oh man, you can just see it, yummy. So happy, all those good feeding roots. Right, we're going to open them up a little bit. That's it, and pop them right in the center. I say, center, Mr. Center. There you go. I mean, already, that could just be a pot on its own. Wow. So, if you're feeling inspired and you just want white, pop a whole lot more in here. Beautiful, nice column of color. Fantastic. Now that I've got my center plant in, I'm going to use this wonderful Petunia. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Out it comes. Nice and simple. Open it up a little bit. Here we go. And we're going to pop this little baby in right over here. So in he goes. Now remember, what we're wanting here is that beautiful cascading look. And you can already see that we're starting to come together. We've got the height, we've got the in-between part, and then we're looking for something cascading over here. And it would make complete sense to use something like the Pelargonium, which we know is cascading, for this little gap over here. Let's pop it out. There we go. And none of these plants are overly thirsty plants. That's also another important factor. If you're battling for space, which I might be, all you're going to do is tease away some of the soil so that your root structure is still there and it can carry on growing. This beautiful guy is going to go in here. Aha. You can see that already, you know, life's taking shape. We've got my height, we've got the in-between, and then we've got the cascading. So here is where you can then start playing once again. I've got this beautiful little Argyranthemum, common daisy, brilliant little plant, continual flowering. We call it in the gardening world floriferous. Isn't that a lovely word? All right, so that little bad boy, I'm gonna pop him in right over here. Oh, yummy yum. Okay, now we're talking. And then I've got my little Verbena left and my other Pelargonium, and these bad boys I'm going to pop in the back here. And it's interesting, a lot of us don't have very big gardens where we can have a pot that we're going to view from all sides. So, you know, you can get away with a bit of a cheat. You can have the back of a round pot. Sounds weird, and the front of a round pot. In this instance, this is going to be my front. So at the back, I can be a bit sparse. Pop one of these guys in just so that they're not huge holes everywhere, and I can put my little Verbena in. If, however, you are working in a space where, and your final position of this pot is going to be viewed from all sides, pay a little bit more attention, guys. Right, now that all my plants are in, the last bit that I've got to do is this. Take your trowel. So we're just going to be filling in the gaps over here, add some soil in, take the back end of your trowel and just firm it in. There we go. Remember, we're not squashing it. All we're doing is simply filling in the gaps so that when you do water, you know, it's not going into thin air. A few more gaps at the back here. Life is good. So there we have, one time summer, billowing, gorgeous, stunning, kind of country garden look. Remember, all that we need to do, make sure it stays well watered. When I talk about well watered, I'm talking about every second or third day, a good watering, and we already have some organic pellets in there, but give it a bit of a feeding of a liquid plant food every once a week or every second week, whatever the bottle tells you, of course. And the rest that's left to do is simply sit back and enjoy.